Greetings.
Howdy, y'all.
I'm Jason, and this is
Hyman.
And we want to welcome you to the introductory episode of the House of Cog.
Welcome back to the stage of history.
So, on our introductory episode, we're going to be working on Piper. And as you will see shortly in the introductory role that I made for her, she is my 1977 Pontiac Trans-Am that I got in March 25th of 2002, and she was the car that I drove in high school. So there's going to be many changes going on to her, and eventually you will be introduced to the other cars that we will be featuring and having on this channel, and eventually we will be introducing you to what we've called thus far HOK1, which is going to be our official channel car. We will be revealing that to you in the coming weeks.
With the House of Cog 1, HOG1, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised about what it is we're going to be doing, because you're going to see where it came from and where it is now. So, look forward to that.
I know I am. And the intention thus far, what we've done or are planning to do with the vehicle, is we're going to be filming the restoration of it to a point at which we are going to take it, at least thus far, we've discussed and determined that we're at least going to take it autocrossing and road tripping in it. But that's going to take some time because we have a lot of work to do on this vehicle.
A lot.
This is my 1977 Pontiac Trans-Am. Her name is Piper. I got her March 25th, 2002 when I was a junior in high school. She was my first car. As you can see here, her paint's looking a little rough. I'm going to get her seats redone, and I got some interior items that need to be addressed. But those are things that we will be doing on this channel. She's been, like I said, neglected for a little while, and those days are coming to an end, as she's being neglected due to time spent on other projects, which you'll be seeing also introduced on this channel. My plan is to take and, with the co-creator of this channel, Jaime, we're going to be replacing her hydraulic flat tappet camshaft to a hydraulic roller cam. We're going to be upgrading the oil pan with a larger, deeper pan, and changing the pickup to accommodate said pan and putting on some other provisions, which we will be showing you shortly. But a little bit of the stats. She has a 1974 Pontiac 400 block that's been bored 35 over and stroked a ½ inch. It is now a 461. As you can see here, she has Edelbrock 87cc cylinder heads, which have been ported by Butler Performance to 315 CFM flow. Now, this new camshaft is going to help me utilize those heads to their maximum potential. She factory was a Turbo 350 automatic that has been converted 5 years ago to a Tremec TKO 600, running with a mechanical center force dual friction clutch. That tops off for drivetrain. I built last year a 342 Positrack for her. She's always been a Posi, but had some changes along the way. But anyways, so this is Piper, and you'll be seeing more on her here soon. Well, so what we got going on here is, right now I'm working on getting the shifter handle and bracket that we built getting ready to get pulled out, because we're going to drop this transmission, and as part of these upgrades that I'm doing, or that rather that we're doing, we're going to be replacing the transmission cross member. Now, while normally if you're just doing the cross member you could leave it all in the car, I'm also pulling the engine out, so I'll now have nothing to support the transmission, so the best thing to do is just take it out.
Yank her out.
So, as you can see here, this is the top nut and bolt that goes on the actual Tremec. By the way, we have a Tremec TKO 600 that we're pulling out and getting this out of. And on the Tremec, it has these two bolts. And like I said, this is the top one. And right now, I'm working on getting the nut loose on the bottom one. And about to start pulling the Allen off. Just gonna get it in there. There we go. So as you can see, Jaime here, he's trying to get in and remove the 4 bolts off around on the pinion and yoke for the rear end to pull the drive shaft off. You see there, he's got a 3/8 wrench on it. Sorry, 7/16. My mistake. Me myself, I am fixing to pull all the plug wires off and pull the top of the distributor off, the cap, so that way I can prevent it when we lower the back of the engine from coming in contact with the firewall and busting.
Oops.
So, since we have to take the engine out anyway, and as a precautionary measure, just to be double certain that when we pull the transmission out and jack stuff up and move stuff, we don't have a radiator strike, we pulled the radiator out. And now we are getting our transmission jacks in place and our engine support jack and prep for pulling the transmission out. We got the drive shaft out. We've got any other things taken apart, ready to come out, so everything's ready to go. All right, so transmission's out, at least out from being connected into the car. It's sitting on the transmission jack now. So, keeping in mind that Piper is far from stock. The only thing stock about her engine anymore is the fact that she's got a Pontiac block and Pontiac main. She's got all different stuff. And with that in mind, she's using Ram Air 4 reproduction from, I believe it was Ram Air Restoration, manifolds that are 2.5 inches, because factory's 2 1/4. Now, mind you, they don't have Ram Air 4 manifolds and heads in 1977, which is what she is. They have the 6X heads on these engines. But with all that being said, she's using 1/4 inch bigger exhaust manifolds, and with that, 1/4 inch larger diameter exhaust pipes all the way back. So we ran into a couple snags. One, we had to take the actual shifter off the top of the Tremec. As you can see, we had to get it off because this adds, you know, 4 or 5 inches extra clearance that you lose by trying to get it out. So, as you can see back in under here, we took and pulled the exhaust pipe on the driver's side down so we could get the cross member out of the way. You know, you could probably, if you wanted and you had accessibility to do both, you can. For just what we were trying to do with 2 people being under there, and I would always recommend 2 people trying to take a transmission out, because
and watch your hands.
Watch your hands. But if you've got, for some reason you're working on it and it falls on you, or as what happened with my dad, he didn't have a good transmission jack and it fell and broke his finger, the torque converter on his Chevelle, which we'll be introducing you to later on, the torque converter slid off the front of the input shaft and hit his finger, and it crushed it against the concrete. Anyways, with all that being said, definitely safety is one thing you never want to take in short on. But we took, with Jaime here, he was on one side and I was on the other, and we pulled this exhaust pipe out and loosened it from the manifold, and as you can see, that's how we got it down. And can you get under there further? So I don't know if you could see up there, but this here is where the that assembly that I was showing you sits, and it was coming in contact with the bracing on the bottom of the floor. So with that being said, that's why we had to take that off. So now what we're going to do is we're going to jack Piper up some more, and then we're going to take and get this transmission out. Alright, so update. As you can see here, we got the Tremec TKO 600 out. So we were noticing it is clearly got a lot of oil on it. And if you come over here, you can see here I have a Lakewood explosion-proof bell housing. And you can see, for whatever reason, there was a lot of oil in there also. So we're going to be taking, after we pull we just got the clutch out a few minutes ago. I have a center force dual friction, I believe it's 11-inch clutch. Got it through Butler Performance, and they're rated for about 650 to 700 horsepower. It has been a fantastic clutch. The setup that I run on this car is entirely mechanical. Rod coming out of the firewall to a Z-bar, down to the clutch rod, fork, all that stuff. It's entirely 100% mechanical. Anybody who drives this car cannot believe it's mechanical. I'm old school, and admittedly sometimes proprietary, but I didn't want to run hydraulic. So anyways, so we got the clutch off. We also saw that there was a lot of slobber, if you will, of oil around the front side, the front plate of the bell housing. So on a bell housing like this, you have the back, and then you have a front plate, and you bolt those together. So on the front plate, we found a lot of oil slobber. On the bottom side of the pan also. This engine hasn't been apart really for 5 years. Well, more like 4, but at any rate, so something is clearly going on, and we're going to get to the bottom of it after we pull this engine out.
Yep, it's leaking something.
Alright, so we had to move some stuff back here in the side shop. I want to give a shout out and tell my dad thanks. I'm in the process of moving, so he was so kind to let us use his side shop for this part of the project while I'm moving. So like I said, we had to move some stuff over here. This is the TKO that we pulled out of the car. This hood is for my dad's red Chevelle that got wrecked, that you will be introduced later in the channel. So we've got, as part of getting ready to pull the engine to make the car more maneuverable, we have these 4-wheel dollies. Now this allows us to take and move the car left to right in the shop as needed. And what we took and did was, and I would highly recommend if you are building your own garage to do such a thing, but we reinforced the rafters with this 4x6x12. And anyways, we're using that as a suspension point for pulling an engine. And in the front garage that we have here, my dad did that in the garage at the house where I am leaving. When we built the garage there, we reinforced that roof also. Because in a situation like this, it's nice to have a suspension point versus having to have an engine crane. There's nothing wrong with engine cranes. However, in older cars, if you don't extend the boom or you take the whole front nose off, you're going to be scraping the front bumper in most instances. So we've got the 4-wheel dollies on the front also, and you can see here we're using a chain hoist, and we've got it hooked to Piper's engine, and we've just got to take the motor mounts loose, take the exhaust manifold bolts loose, which is what we're using right now to just kind of give the engine some side, some forward and back rigidity and stability as we are moving the car around. As you can also see, we got the AC compressor disconnected, and we had baling wire available, but you could really use anything you wanted. I really didn't want to discharge the AC unit, so that's why we took and left it connected and just carefully pulled it off to the side so that it can be cleaned, and I didn't want to tear up the chrome finish on it much more than it already is. I put that in 5 years ago. And all this stuff is lots of years, 5 years of travel because I drive this car. So anyways, so the next point is we are going to be getting the tension pulled set on the engine hoist and getting it ready to go. So we are working towards getting the engine out, but we did discover some unexpected damage. This here, right there, is the input shaft. This whole thing here. Well, that right there is where the pilot bearing is, and the pilot bearing is seized up. And she's got a hell of an oil leak. Alright, so at this point, as you can see over here, we've gotten, Jaime's gotten the alternator taken out. We've got the fan spacer, radiator out, all the accessories for the most part. We've got to still drain the power steering pump and disconnect the AC compressor over there, and kind of just take it off to the side. But right now what we're in the process of is, so on these Pontiac 400s and just Pontiac jet engines in general, there's a boss on the driver's side of the block down a little ways, and it is a boss essentially where you, in screw-in fitting, where you can put in your ball stud for your Z-bar or your bell crank assembly for your manual clutch or just running a clutch. Anyways, before we pull the engine out, I got to take the bracket that's on the frame out, and we got to get that the bell crank arm off the block and the ball off, so that way they don't bust when we're pulling them out of the engine. So we're gonna take, and I'm gonna pull this. Jaime got the inner fender bolts loose. I got the driver's side wheel spoiler out, and we're going to take and pull off the inner fender. So it's loose. It's pretty simple. You just kind of got to jostle and work a little ways back and forth to get it out. Let's see here. There we go. And as you can see, it's out. So now, as I was showing you, or talking to you about, right in there is, there's the Z-bar assembly, and there's the nut that we got to pull off so we can get the bell crank out and Z-bar assembly. So there you go. All right, so engine's out. The 461, as I like to brag to my dad, the bow tie beater, is out. As you can see here, we have a serious oil leak. Now, she didn't have a tendency to dump oil all over the ground, but this is definitely a problem. And as you can see, it's oily all over here. Now, I did know that over on this side, I had some sort of oil issue going on, but we're going to get all that stuff addressed now, and we're gonna keep moving forward. I need to go to Lowe's Home Improvement to pick up some bolts that are big, long enough for the engine stand. These ones that came in the kit do not work because they're metric, and this is an old-fashioned American standard fastener engine. So I need to go get me some 3/8 stud, which is your 9/16 head bolt, and then move forward with getting it on the stand. And then we will be here, and you will follow along as we start the journey of this teardown and the plan to put the new roller cam that we've got, that I got from Butler Performance, that is going to take and utilize the cylinder head flow that this thing has and is capable of. We will also be installing a 7-quart road racing oil pan that is baffled and has trap doors to help with oil control, a deeper pickup tube, and a couple other goodies along the way. So yeah, that's where we're gonna go next.
And just for adding a little bit of it, so to take it out, we lifted up the engine. I found out there wasn't enough clearance. So what we have to do is take off the wheels and lower it and put them on dollies for the time being. That way they can get back on. But that was interesting too. And then once they're on dollies, just slide it back this way. And that's it.
So, like Jaime said, we're going to get this on the engine stand. Then I'm gonna move it out of the way so I can get Piper's front tires back under her. And then I'm gonna start working on this. One thing that we did find, and I don't remember if we mentioned, but the pilot bearing for the transmission, which is the very front tip of the input shaft. Here's your crankshaft, your flywheel if you're standard, or flex plate if you're automatic, bolts onto here. And this bearing in here, I mean, it is seized up tight. And that caused it to self-clearance the drive shaft, input shaft, or I'm sorry,
Transmission input shaft.
The transmission input shaft. And I'm going to have to I'm going to call a company that does Tremec transmissions and see what they've got. Or I may have to just take and buy a new input shaft and put it on myself. But that's where we're at. Well, we got it out and on the stand. Like I said, I had to go to Lowe's to get some bolts to some 3/8 stud 9/16 head fasteners to go into the block to get it on the stand, because the ones that were on the stand were metric. So it's out. So now there's going to be lots and lots of cleaning. I need to get Piper back on her feet, and then kind of just start working forward from there. And on that note, guys, I think we're going to take and end this off the first episode of the House of Cog. Me and Jaime invite you guys to subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram. House of Cog is what our Instagram handle is. We're getting our Facebook started. We got a lot of things coming. We are still trying to figure out our rhythm, our camera style. Our plan is to do 1 episode a week, maybe bump it up to more. We'll just see what that time or what that comes to look like. But if you guys are out working on your hot rods, we're in Austin, so it's getting cooler outside. Fortunately, we've got an air conditioner here in our garage. I helped my dad put one in here a couple weeks ago, a month or two maybe. When we put one out in the front garage. It's such a worthwhile investment if you don't have one. Especially here in Texas weather where it gets to be super, super hot. But ending that note, you guys get out working on your cars. The House of Cog wishes you qapla. Till next time.